Okay, ahead of time I'm going to apologize for the noise. I do have a fan on and air conditioning. It's very hot at the moment. But pretty much this video is going to be breaking down why you can't draw. It's going to be discussing the way you see versus real things in drawing, such as positive space, angles, proportions, and details. So pretty much, let's go ahead and get started here. If you can see, it usually starts with the way you see, first of all. So drawings aside, let's take something, let's see, normal, like this pen. So you just see a pen, but your eyes are going to have to learn how to break things down into shape, color, and size. So pretty much what you're going to break this down into is a triangle. Do you see that? And then over here is a very long rectangle. But not just that, there's a black rectangle, a red rectangle, and a white rectangle. And over here you have another triangle shape and a smaller rectangle shape that is a brown color. So pretty much you're going to want to see things in different perspectives. So such as this. If I'm holding it like this, you're going to want to look at the angles, right? It's probably easier to draw than this. But so pretty much this side is going to be bigger since it is closer to you, and this side disappears into the distance. And that's very important to know because that's pretty much what drawing is. It's perception, it's observation. And this is pretty much, I'm going to be going over this because if you are serious about drawing, then you're not going to want to miss these steps at all. And they really make a difference in your art, and I can testify to that. I mean, I've been drawing all my life, and there are a few things I learned, and I'm pretty much going to be going over what I've learned. So, hand-eye coordination is very important. You're going to have to simplify what you see, childlike almost, a blur. So you see this ball over here, it has a shadow going over here, but when you look at it to draw, when you're actually observing it, you're not going to want to see a ball at all. You're going to want to see a circle and almost a crescent shape. And that's really going to help you. Because do you see where these lines are? These are guides that pretty much help the way you see and also help the way you draw. So this vertical line here is separating this crescent. You see how one goes into one quadrant and this one goes into the top quadrant? That's very important to note. You're going to want to see those things. You're going to have to differentiate, and if you think you simply can't, then that's where practice comes into play. Because I remember a time before being able to see these things and a time after being able to see these things, and now I can never unsee them. But do you see where the glare is? It sits right above the horizontal line. And you're going to want to keep that in mind because that's pretty much where your light source is. And that's pretty much where all the shadow is going to go. Do you see how it kind of aligns with that? That's pretty much life. You're going to observe these things. Pretty much all you're going to need to do is look at life. And it sounds simple, but you're going to need to be breaking that down childlike the way I said. You're going to have to see things differently. Okay, now let's discuss positive space. Positive space is pretty much where your subject is, where there are things that you can draw. And opposite of that, negative space is where things are not. And positive space is very important, especially looking at negative space. It's actually going to help you a lot with your drawing. So don't take negative space as something to brush off because it's definitely going to be important. Let's see, gesture drawing is very important. So here, whenever you're just going in and drawing, it doesn't have to be perfect. A gesture drawing is pretty much just going in and filling out the space. Filling out the space is very important. But you're pretty much going to want to jot down the basic form. It's almost like you're taking notes on the object itself when you're starting out something. As for the angles, like I said, light helps out a lot with the angles. But also something almost circular, perfectly shaped like this won't exactly have angles, but you see how the shadows do because light does take an effect. You're going to want to look at the two-dimensional aspect of it. So when you're looking at something flat, you're going to have to start out flat. and you're gonna have to break it down, like I said. But you know, angles are awkward. They're not always simple. Okay, so let's look over here. When you have something that's not so simple as a ball, you have something very almost flat like lips. But pretty much, you see how the light really helps out here. The light is pretty much what makes the depth real. But like anything, you're gonna want to start out with that basic shape. You see how it's an oval? So you just go ahead, just put that down. It's an oval. Sure, there are some things that come out the top, and you're gonna want to continue that. See that? You're pretty much just feeling out the shape, like I said. It's very important. Let's go to more complicated, let's see, style. Okay. So you see here how I started out just a drawing. I just went ahead and I threw in a circle. And I noticed you had hair piled up on top. This is the circle, by the way, over here. So I just transfer that over. And you're going to want to just pile it on top. Just go ahead and scribble. It's okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. I know drawing sometimes makes us nervous and makes us feel like we have to do our best, but we really don't. We have to get the ugly drawings out of the way, really. And over here, her bust is pretty much triangle type. So you're going to want to pretty much draw, or at least it looks like a diamond, so more of a diamond shape. But you see this triangle right here. It is important because it really does map out your drawing. And here is also where angles come into play. You don't exactly have to worry about angles here, but you're pretty much going to take notes on that. And that should come into play later. So this preliminary drawing, see how the angles are important. The way her eyes align. This eye is further above this eye. If you're looking at it this way, flat and straight and horizontal. That's very important to note. You're going to want to take notes of all these. See how the shoulders align, how the breasts align. But it's also going to be further. So you see how I have this lighting over here. I use blue pen to indicate the darker areas. But like I said, that's important. And this may seem like quite a jump from this one to this one, which, I mean, I understand. But it's also, like I said, this is still very important to this. So as soon as you get this down, you're pretty much on your next step to here. Another important thing is the outline. You're going to want to see this shape. You're going to want to break it down from here to here. This is how you're going to have to simplify. And then this will be the finished product. But you see how I jotted down the angles here? These are very important. The way the shoulder blades kind of see from one arm to another. And it's okay if this one doesn't match this one. You're going to fix that. That's what feeling out the drawing is. But pretty much you want to jot down all the shapes, all the important factors into this drawing. See how here there's not really much information? So too will be in this preliminary drawing. Now there are certain techniques that people do use in order to draw. For example, take the shape of the eye. Usually in the real photo, they'll take the shape of the eye and they'll count how many across fits into this area. So usually one other eye should be able to fit here and separate your other eye from the other. So if you can sketch one and then draw the next one, the real one right next to it, then that usually comes out more proportionate. And so you can count usually in your photo. Usually your photo is going to be different. And by your photo, I mean the reference photo that you're going to be drawing from. Now it's really important to have a reference photo. I didn't even discuss that. Let's go ahead and discuss that. Your reference photo, it will be your map, will be the drawing that you're going to make. And it's very important. Even say a fish. I know what a fish looks like. But if I'm going to be drawing a fish, I better be looking at a picture of a fish as well. Now, it's very important when you're learning. It takes a while until you actually understand the human shape or any other shape that you wish to draw from memory. But pretty much it's going to involve sketches. You better be sketching in a cheap little sketchbook that you get from the 99-cent store. As long as you're sketching something, you will be learning. It doesn't really matter the supplies you have. Pens are good enough. I usually use red and blue pens a lot to differentiate shadow as well as fixing my mistakes from the red. Usually reds always start out as mistakes, but it's okay because it's a much lighter color than blue. Okay, let's see. But pretty much you're gonna just want to get the proportions down. That's what this is for. That's what gesture drawing is for. And I love gesture drawing because you can see the simplest things start to manifest. It's starting to create, or at least you're starting to create the image itself. Okay, now going into detail, you have to understand shadows and values. So when you're looking at your photo, like I said, you need a light source. And that's very important because you're going to need to push these values. Even though, let's say your photo isn't that dark, pushing your values is going to help you out so much better because as artists, we tend to be very delicate. We are sometimes a little afraid to venture the, let's say, the more risky sides of art, but that's what you're going to have to do. And even if you're afraid, no one's going to see it. It's in your sketchbook. It's in your 99-cent sketchbook. But pretty much you're going to want to understand your highlights and your shadows, most importantly. And all these midtones, you see where I left red? I didn't put blue even though it is shadow because they were darker shadows. And that's very important to note. Okay. Alright, so I wanted to discuss how to draw videos, despite this being a how to draw video. How to draw videos usually go over mostly one thing from what I've seen. I made sure to do research before this. There are real videos that show you how to actually draw, and that's pretty much what this is going to be, but a much shorter version of those really good videos I've seen. However, usually how to videos will be like, well, how to draw a hand. And you're going to want to identify those 5 digits, right? And that's pretty much what they're doing. And then they fill in the space. They usually simplify it. So let's see, draw a sausage here and another sausage just looped. And then this one's going to be sticking out more. And this one has a different shape. And they usually simplify it like that, which is great for drawing a hand in this perspective. But say, how are you going to draw a hand like this? How are you going to do it? This didn't teach you anything. And that's pretty much what my issue is. It's like how to draw a door. Yeah, how to draw a door has 4 sides, but how are you going to draw an open door? And, you know, one slightly adjacent than the one they showed you. So pretty much that's where these 3-dimensional angles and 2-point perspective come into play. You're going to want to see these. But this is usually used for very square, very geometrical shapes. In real life, it's going to be much harder than just drawing 2 dots. And so, let's say you're drawing other hands, or at least hands in different perspectives. You're going to want to get them right. And this didn't really help you out with that. So that's why I'm not really going to make a how to draw video, how to draw a person and simplify that for you, because it's not simple. It's not simple to draw something like this. You take a hand, and you're going to want to break it down. So pretty much 1 finger here, here. And I guess that kind of teaches you how to do that, but not quite. I've always seen people do exact replicas of what they're doing in the video, but you can't be doing that. That doesn't help you at all. But you see how this one here, it's very hard to do. It's very hard to draw something coming towards you because there's not much information there. It looks strange. It's going to look weird. And you're going to have to understand how to draw what even looks weird. But you see how these identify themselves as hands? Because you see all the wrinkles. Here you do see a wrinkle, but it's coming at you. And so this is usually going to be bigger than these fingers here. See how it looks? This portion here is fatter than the ones here. Because it's coming at you. It's closer. It's high above you. Now these don't have any shadow. If they had shadow, they would look much better. They would look much more identifiable. But even without shadow, you're going to have to identify those features. And that's pretty much what I did here. I outlined it because, well, you're going to need to. You're going to need to learn how to draw these lines. You're going to need to learn how to see these lines. Like I said, it goes back to the way you see. It goes back to your eyes, and it's going to be really important. But once you're past this stage of outlining, I'm not saying that you need to do this first, but you will eventually learn this. Let's see. That's where shading comes into play, and if you've ever taken an art class, you would recognize this. You're going to have to go from your darkest value that your pencil will allow you, and the very lightest value, which is pretty much the white paper underneath. And you're going to need to try to transition it into a smooth kind of, gradient. And let's see. Get closer. Okay. So you see how you kind of start out here. It's going to be the same thing. You're going to need to learn these gradient to capture real life. That's pretty much it. Not completely, but like I said, life is more particular than the how-to draw videos that you may be looking at. And not to trash talk them, but it's pretty much that's not going to be serious drawing, not going to be serious art unless you're actually practicing. So pretty much I had a teacher who 5 minutes a day, an art teacher, he would have us draw our hands. Just take one pose, just draw it for 5 whole minutes. Even if you felt done, you just continued until those 5 minutes were done. And he would do that every day. And we had all these hands, like, how many is in a school year? However many there was, it was a packet of your own hand drawings, and you would actually see them get better. And you would need to practice these kind of perspectives, or at least I did. And it really did make me feel more comfortable with hands, because hands are hard to draw. They're thin, they're always underestimated, but they have a lot of detail in them. So make sure you're not leaving those details out. And I guarantee you your drawings will be better. I can go into more detail much later, but this is pretty much the gist of it. And like I said, it's really important to keep up. Make sure you're doing your gesture drawings. That's very important. With models, with anything, with just lips, with a stack of cards. Doesn't matter. Just make sure you're mapping out your drawing, you're understanding the basic outline, and then you're putting the shadows in its proper place. Bye.